Anticipation all the time. All right, it's 4:03, November 8th. I call this meeting of the Parks and Trails Commission to order. We don't, on our agenda, don't have anything about topics from the floor. But if anybody wants to speak, got 5 minutes.
It's after the
Oh,
approval.
that's the approval. Okay. All right. Usually it's the first thing, isn't it? No. All right, approval of minutes. The first one is from August. You make a motion.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from August.
I have some corrections that need to be made.
Good.
My last name's spelt wrong about 6 times. Don't know if that matters or not. It's 2 L's in my last name. My joke is if you type in hell, you'll find me for Helnick. That's all. For the August one.
That's it.
Yeah, September was good.
I think, motion's been made and seconded. We'll vote. All four.
Right.
Lynn?
Aye.
Okay. Passed. Draft minutes for September. Somebody make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we second it.
All right. Anybody have anything to say?
My name's spelt right. No,
All right, let's take a vote.
Alright.
Aye.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed, so. You guys have it. All right, we already know the topics of the floor. Nobody wants to speak. Anybody on Zoom? Cool. All right, then the new business.
Prior to getting on to new business, I would like to propose a change to today's agenda. On old business, topic number 6, the current agenda reads that we would be discussing roles and responsibilities and update the bylaws. I would like to propose moving that topic to our next month's meeting, and instead I would like to inject just a recap and clarification on some items discussed at the meeting that we had, or not meeting, but the educational training that we had today on the OGEC, the Oregon Government Ethics Commission on public meeting laws.
Anybody want to,
I'm sorry, what, you wanted to talk about that today?
Correct. So replace item number 6 of roles and responsibilities and updating the bylaws.
Technically, you can't talk about things that aren't on the agenda.
This is a proposal to update the
Motion.
agenda, a motion to update the agenda.
Take-
It's been published the way it is and
Correct.
everything. Lisa, I don't think you can change it during the meeting, can you?
Yes, we just discussed that.
But you can add.
I think we've done it in the past.
My understanding was if a majority of
Okay.
the commission votes for it, then it can't be done.
Correct.
Should we take a vote or somebody make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve replacing line item 6 with the Oregon Government Ethics Commission training.
We have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Lynn?
Okay, aye.
Okay. All right, then we can move on to new business. You're up.
Easy there, Howard.
Don't have the budget for new tables.
House is really having problems.
I'm gonna put a sticky note underneath that.
There we go. You're a Giants fan.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for you too.
Good afternoon, and thank you for allowing us to have the opportunity to talk to you about the board's EPA brownfield cleanup grant application. My name is Elliot Levin, and I am with the Port of Columbia County and managing the cleanup of the port's open site. Online, Katie Dougherty is DEQ's manager of the Pope and Talbot property and is here to help me respond to any questions that you may have and possibly expand on anything I may say. And also I'm joined by my colleague Gina Cisco. She supports communications and external affairs manager. And she's been very integral in helping us put together our grant application. Next slide. So this slide shows you the location of the Pope and Talbot site. The property is indicated in red and it sits just below Railroad Avenue on the Multnomah Channel. To the north, you can see St. Helens. And lying between St. Helens and the Pope and Talbot site is the Boise property. To the immediate south is where St. Helens fiberboard was located, and that's today it's more commonly known as. This slide shows the site as it appears today. See two remaining structures, a workshop and a former sawmill that is now used for covered parking. Along the shoreline, you may be able to see. You go back one. So along the shoreline, you may be able to see some remaining dock structures on the easiest one to see is on the far right side. You see some piles there. And in the center labeled is the former transfer table in the center of the shoreline. If you note this structure, it will help you orientate yourself when we see the next slide. As you're about to see, the Pope and Talbot site used to look very different than it does today. This photo was taken in about 1929, and please ignore the reddish area at the top of the photo. It's from the original photograph and not related to what we're talking about today. And while it may be hard to see all the details, you can tell there were many structures on the property. On the left, you can see various creosote and fuel storage tanks. The large creosote tank at the top left of the photo is located just above where the shop building was on the preceding slide. And the transfer table in the prior slide at the center of the store line here, see it consists of a maze of timber structures that you see in this photo. From 1912 to 1960, Pope and Talbot operated a wood treatment operation on this 42-acre site. That operation included treating logs with creosote, the presence of which can still be detected in the soil today. Pope and Talbot ceased commercial operations in 1960 and removed the various upland structures which you see in this picture between 1960 and 1974. The port purchased the property in 1963 while Pope and Talbot was still in the process of removing those structures. Since the port has owned the site, it has mostly sat vacant with periodic use for small-scale business operations. So I want to emphasize that the contamination here was caused by activities that occurred before the port property. In 2008, Pope and Talbot went bankrupt, and the port, by virtue of owning the land, became the sole responsible party. By extension, that means the citizens of Columbia County are left with the cost and responsibility to restore this site. Oregon Department of Environmental Quality, DEQ, has been investigating this site since the 1980s, working to determine the extent of creosote contamination and to determine how best to clean it. Port DEQ have made significant progress over the past few years, culminating in the release of DEQ's Record of Decision, or ROD, last year. That document provides a roadmap for cleaning up the site, and we are now preparing the next phase, which will involve designing and implementing the cleanup called for in the ROD. Port staff has been talking to Columbia Pacific Economic Development District, or COLPAC, Business Oregon, EPA, and DEQ about funding options that may be available to us, including EPA brownfield cleanup grants. Last September, EPA announced this year's grant cycle, which allocates $100 million to clean up brownfield sites with individual grants available for up to $4 million. Next slide, please. So here you can see the site has been divided into 5 priority action areas, or PAAs. This slide shows them starting with Upland Area 1, which is in the center. This is the only shore-based priority action area, and it's the subject of our grant application. If you continue looking counterclockwise, you'll see Upper Milton Creek, the Cove, Area 1 dock along the shoreline there, and then further along Area 2 dock. Upland Area 2, which is also shown as a no further action area based on minimal disruptive use. So the cleanup of Upland Area 1 will include placing a cap on top of several feet of dredge spoils that were placed on the site in the early 1970s, and the installation of a permeable reactive barrier, if you picture an underground wall, on the slope between the cap and the Multnomah Channel that will capture and remove creosote from water traveling below ground level before it enters the Multnomah Channel. The details of the cleanup of the 4 in-water PAAs differ slightly from each other. Still, generally speaking, each will involve removing the remaining dock structures, mostly dock piles, then removing contaminated soil, then placing a cap over any contaminated soil that may remain on the riverbed. The rough estimate of the cost to clean and maintain all 5 PAAs is over $30 million. That greatly exceeds the Port DEQ's capabilities and the $4 million limit this available grant cycle. The good news is that we can apply for grants separately for each priority action area, but we are limited to 1 application per site per year. For this purpose, the division of the Pope and Talbot site into 5 distinct priority action areas works well. Working with DEQ and the port's consultants, we determined that prioritizing Upland Area 1 made sense for several reasons. First, it is above the other priority action areas, so once cleaned, there is no risk of it being repolluted by one of the remaining PAAs. Second, we can phase the implementation to match the available grant funding. For this grant cycle, we hope to receive funding to install the cap. The permeable reactive barrier would be installed during a later phase as funding allows. A third advantage of the Upland area is that it is adjacent to that no further action area shown here as Upland Area 2. Thus, it will significantly increase the land available for redevelopment, yet another criterion that EPA will consider when evaluating grant applications. Next slide, please. So here's the slide of the site we looked at earlier. I've added a circle showing you roughly where Upland Area 1 is. That location consists of about 25 acres, and the grassy area to the right is the no further action area, which is about 17 acres. So thus cleaning that upland area creates a usable site of nearly 42 acres, improving the viability, redeveloping the site. Now, all 42 acres won't be available because we will need to set aside space to access and to clean up those 4 remaining priority action areas that I mentioned, and to install that permeable reactive barrier. Next slide. The trail path.
Like Interstellar.
So why am I here today? Well, last April, the St. Helens Park and Trails Commission attended a Port Commission meeting and introduced the Port Commissioners and staff to the proposed St. Helens Milk Creek Trail and Development Project. As was pointed out at that meeting last April, Pope and Talbot site fits well with this project. The port feels the same way. As I mentioned earlier, EPA will judge our application based on the port's redevelopment plan for the site, and we would like to include this project alongside possible industrial development. So this slide was taken from the presentation made to the Port Commission, and it depicts the route presented at that meeting. Subsequently, I've been told by Scott Jacobson that there's a second loop envisioned for the south side of Milk Creek near the port's bridge. So I was wondering if you could just clarify that for me. What I'm understanding is it would sort of be just opposite the creek as the one that's depicted here.
Yes. Exactly. Pretty much, I mean, we have the, there's the railroad Bridge and also the car bridge there. And where that could be the terminus of the trail, but we could also bring it up a straight shot to the end of Milton Creek too, which would be on the Horton Talbot site. I'm sorry for the confusion with the loop, saying a loop trail. That does, using number 7 up there, it does look like could be used as a loop trail.
Yeah.
6 is part of the river walk. And so I don't mean to interject for me. You want to continue?
No, I definitely, I said I'd like to hear what you had to say about it. So one issue I could see is at the south end of that is we're getting into those priority action areas, and the other.
Yeah, that one that seems to be right along the creek. You're
Yeah,
talking-
the cove.
Yeah,
And that bridge is it's pretty much at the end of its life. We're planning to redirect our access away from that bridge for that reason.
so you're looking at some different access across the.
Well, it would be coming from the other side, from the Boise side.
Okay.
So-
That's what we're looking at, is trying to figure out a way of getting across.
You see that trail we're talking about now on the south side of Milton Creek being the first phase or a later phase?
Well, what we're gonna be discussing this evening is that trying to get, because we're trying to get this land set aside, the city land set aside for this trail. And an overlapping next component that could be overlapping would be try to see if the port was interested on the other side of Milton Creek for that. We already have with the Riverwalk, as you're seeing there, that is part of the master plan. So that is already also slated for in the future to be, constructed sometime. We don't have any time frame for that.
Always the money question.
Well, we're in the same situation with the timing of ours. We're very dependent on outside sources. We don't have $32 million to apply to a site that.
Always said if we don't get vision out there, if something's happening, if there's no vision of the being there, but hopefully some bit of money is available.
Yeah. But I think it does work well with this site, because even if so I don't know if you could rely on that bridge still being there, the one that's there now, but ultimately, once it is clean, we could then go back on that footprint because it's right on the edge of the water, and that would probably work reasonably well to that kind of thing.
I think regardless whether or not the bridge that is currently present remains, whether or not it remains, considering a crossover from one side of the creek to the other somewhere in that region is still a potential desire, so that we can make that kind of smaller loop, like Scott was saying, that would more or less navigate both sides of Milton Creek. Does that make sense?
It does.
There's also, this is a year and a half or 2 years ago, speaking with Doug Morton, the former council member here, he was talking about they're gonna expand Old Portland Road. And that would be taking out those bridges there, and they could possibly be utilized further down. And that could be.
And we understand all this is a work in progress, as it is for us too.
Yes.
But we're supportive of the project. Obviously, what we do is subject to Port Commission approval, but easements are certainly something that I could foresee happening.
So, how long do you think, the cleanup on the site, capping and that, what is the timeframe that, not for it to be completed, how long will that be a viable cap? I mean, 100 years or?
Well, our numbers, it's forever. But like the 32 million is roughly based on 100 years of monitoring and maintaining.
Okay. I'm also curious about, you're talking about development along the Pope and Talbot side, of course. You want to get some, generate income. You have what kind of development are you looking at there? Because there's gonna be, some limitations, especially with the area that is, has the creosote on it.
It's a challenge. I don't see much being in terms of making use of the river access just because of the situation on the water, and we're in the floodplain for much of that property. There's just a narrow sliver along P&W's track goes on the north end of that property line that's outside the 100-year flood zone. So I don't, we have an economic development mission, but I don't see heavy industry locating there because they have to be able to insure themselves. So,
What kind do you think?
at this time, it could be something like solar farm or something along those lines. I don't see someone building spending millions of dollars building a heavy industrial footprint in flood zone. So it'd be something
What
more
about
like that.
What about the other area, the upper area? That's, you don't have to do anything with.
It would similar type thing because it's in the flood zone as well.
Well,
There's an area too, I think.
Yeah, upland area too, the no further action.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be similar as well, because that's a no further based also on not overly disturbing the soil.
Yeah, I mean, you said there's dredge spoil there, and I mean, obviously, that, some dredge spoil does have contained
Yeah,
toxins.
that's not a problem on this. And the dredge spoils here actually, we're at upland area 1. That's where the spoil is, but
I'd say I'm very much in favor of getting this cleaned up. I know that I've been involved in Fox, with DEQ and everything else for probably over 20 years. We've talked about this. Thought we should have been a super fun site, but oh no, that puts too much regulation in it. And so it's been a long time coming. Especially considering that one point we did have it. Director of the board actually, we talked about maybe there should be a fishing platform where the old log dump is, it wouldn't pass 50%. No, you don't want to do that. There's so much pollution, water. It's not safe to eat the fish in that area. And so I'm very concerned that really it's very important to get going on this. Because for years I've heard pork, maybe you maybe pork, we've lost years worth of cleanup. By the two people not getting it together, getting it done.
I can't really speak to what happened in the past, but I can tell you Katie's here today and we worked together, I think, very well, and we've made some good progress over the last few years.
Okay.
Now we're at an obstacle though that's difficult for even a good relationship to overcome is $30 million of funding versus what our capabilities are.
Well, I hate to think what it would have been if we would have done it 20 years ago when we first started talking about it.
The point's taken.
To have a book plot to the property.
Back in those days, it wasn't a thing, right? In the 60s to do there wasn't the same degree of environmental awareness that there is now.
Okay, back then.
I have a question about the plan for the capping, along with the permeable reactive barrier there. Because I have no idea what that looks like, what that means, how it's done, what is,
Well, as a layman, I can answer that particularly on the asphalt, on the cap, because in my mind, I always picture like a parking lot.
Right.
Yeah, it's gonna be, it hasn't been fully designed yet, because, the more detailed engineering will be doing. We get the grant money,
Right.
but, preliminary material was discussed was asphalt.
Okay, because that's kind of what I was wondering is what type of a cap, right, would be going on it, and how that would affect future development in the area, either natural or man-made type substance.
So, you could do a structure that didn't require deep
Drilling or foundation.
But again, there's the flood zone issue.
Just for you guys to know, I think they're called some NPLs or something to that effect. They're a kind of globular type of
Apple.
apple, yeah. Okay. Creosote forms into globs and they can be malleable, I believe, and that's what they're working on right now.
And As for the permeable reactive barrier, I have a vision in my mind of what it looked like, but since I've never seen one myself, I don't know if Katie can hear me, but she may have a better way of describing what it might look like.
Well, it'll be all below ground, so it'll be like a big, long trench dug down to basalt, and then they backfill it with the permeable material, whatever the engineers decide is best for that. So it'll actually be below grade and you won't see it.
Like a filter almost.
Yeah, pretty much. That's exactly right. Just in the ground.
Trying to wrap my brain around kind of the structural integrity of the soil and site then long-term, with the understanding that it is on a floodplain and the river, you know, may rise or fall, and kind of what that looks like long-term as far as leaving the materials that are there in place and capping them versus like an actual removal of the contaminants at the site.
So the removal is just cost prohibitive. There's just no way we can do it. And it also already has about 8 feet of dredge fill on top. So it's, the original surface has already been capped significantly. So the cap that we're talking about is to prevent stormwater infiltration, that mobilizes the contamination in the groundwater and discharges it out as seeps into the river.
There would also be stormwater control like swales.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Thank you.
Big parking lot, then maybe for Halloween Town, can have more parking.
If they remove the marina, that'd be. Marina.
Through there to go out to the river to fish. So what can we do to help?
Well, we've filed our application, so really we're just conveying to you that we're interested in being supportive of your project.
Mutual support.
Yes.
Yeah, and if we do get awarded this grant, we won't find out until May of 25 if we're successful, but there'll be ongoing outreach and that we have to do. And so yeah, just that we have support of this cleanup effort and the reuse plan of public providing some sort of public space.
When you get it approved.
When?
Yeah.
Positive vibes.
Anybody else have questions? No questions?
Yeah, next slide is kind of irrelevant because we've already talked about the routing. Just in there trying to depict an alternative route for the shoreline.
Yeah, there is that, you're talking about along the railroad
Yeah.
for an alternative route.
Just an idea of what it could look like if you were to. Because I don't know how long it's gonna take to do those in water areas. It's
Right.
a real challenge because this year there's a $4 million. You can apply for a cleanup grant of $4 million for an individual site. Next year appears it'll be the same, but beyond that, the historic amount has been closer to 500,000. So you can see what we're talking about, the amount of money we are. It's going to be challenging to fill out beyond, assuming we're successful this year and have another that we're successful next year, it'll be a good start.
Absolutely.
So I'm just wondering if because we're not sure of the ownership of the railroad there.
S&W or
P&W.
Okay, it's P&W, okay. Yeah, it's a private ownership, so we need also agreements with them to.
I'm not sure how frequently they.
Yeah, I know.
And we could go, you wouldn't necessarily have to be on that footprint. You could be to the south of it on our land.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask.
It's still pretty
Possible.
flat and I'm not sure how frequently they use that rail.
Yeah, I think they pushed something in there.
I think it's decommissioned, honestly.
Well, I was gonna ask, you guys were saying that you're possibly removing the bridge. Would that not decommission the rest of
No,
the?
that
It's
rail has a different.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Okay.
They've used it for staging some like ties.
Okay.
Temporarily storing some that they were disposing of.
That's potentially another way of getting across.
The railroad by the landfill that we have, the transfer station.
Yeah,
We walked,
Yeah.
okay.
that's, I mean, it's can hold still hold railroad cars, you know, that side can still hold bodies then. As long as we get planks there, because it's missing a number of planks, but it has railing on it.
Like,
Trails to trails.
Next slide.
so thank you for your time. Do you have any other questions?
I think, you know, I mean, just let us know how we can, you know, help you out.
Well, we'll let you know when, if we, definitely if we, what we hear when we get this right, so.
Thank you guys so much for all your hard work, and it's very exciting to see all these great potentials with everybody working together, you know, with the intention of serving our area and the people, and it's just such a joy to see. So thank you guys very much.
Well, then I'm looking forward to using this trail some.
Okay. Mr. Green.
I'm not the best presenter, so
State his name for the record.
I was writing note cards, but then everything I wrote was pretty much what was just on the slides, so I'm just gonna go off of that.
Okay. You sent some slides.
Yeah,
Oh, so I need to turn around.
We need actually some good photographs for our presentation, so I'd ask you for some.
They're for sale.
so today I'll be talking about the ecology of the Milton Creek Woodland Preserve properties. And across St. Helens, we don't have too many remaining white oak meadows. And most of them are on private property. And the Milton Creek Woodland Preserve, the port and the city properties contain some of the most extensive intact habitats still remaining in St. Helens. So, to get an understanding of our area, I think it's important to know our geologic history. The first major event was the Columbia flood basalts between 17 to 6 million years ago that created all the salt bluffs around our town. And then the Missoula floods 15,000 to 13,000 years ago created massive floods that swept all the sediments off the rock, exposing it. The map showing the extent of the height of the water getting up to over 300 feet, the current Columbia River's height. And some of the geologic features on the site include columnar basalt, which are like these large pillars, and then other bluffs that create elevation contours across the properties. There are multiple different floral communities across the properties. Shaded mixed forest, which includes species like big leaf maple, Douglas fir, Pacific yew. And as you get closer to the meadows, it becomes more Oregon white oak, Oregon ash, and Pacific madrones. And eventually it turns into more widespread meadows, and there's a couple different varieties of those. The wet meadows are saturated for most of the year. They're in depressions where they just fill up. Some of the species in that type of habitat are Primula passiflora, Hassackia pinnata, Micranthes oregana, Ranunculus occidentalis, which is common species throughout this type of habitat. Then there's the oak overstory, which has different species such as larkspurs or delphinium, Iris tenax. Then there's large extents of camas dominated meadows that primarily are just camas top basalt. Then we have wide extent of vernal pools, which are seasonally filled by rain and dry up and have an abundance of plant and animal species that use them. And some of the uncommon and rare species at the site include popcorn flowers, Polygonums spurgulariform, Trichostemma oblongum, which is extremely sporadic across all of Oregon, with just a few sites west of the Cascades. And Eryngium petiolatum is a species that has not been seen in Columbia County before. I found it earlier this summer on the site in a vernal pool. They were mostly restricted to the Willamette Valley. And it's just a unique species.
Were you pretty excited to find that?
I dropped to my knees and I was, because I suspected it could be here
Yeah.
for over a year and it paid off. Yeah.
That's awesome. Congrats, by the way. It's pretty.
And then a couple weeks ago, I found a species of sphagnum moss, which this is now the third known site pretty much anywhere in the Willamette Valley. Both of them were wiped out due to agricultural development. And so it's just showing part of the past of the Willamette Valley that doesn't really exist anymore.
Are any of these protected at all?
The other two locations are,
As far as the plants, are they protected species?
no, sadly not. I feel like there could be others on the property. There's potential for it, but I just haven't seen them. And there is a wide diversity of fauna on the property from many different mammals. I even suspect black bear. A wide variety of habitats allows for many species of birds to use these feeding grounds. And there are a lot of reptile and amphibian species on the property, some more restricted to areas like the bluffs around here, such as western skinks, which are only known from a couple locations around St. Helens for Columbia County, and western racers, rubber boas.
Are any of these protected species?
No,
Did you find all these? These are all the
Yeah,
ones
these are-
you've taken?
they're all-
You know, a guy named John, he's,
he was the one who first showed me this property over 3 years ago.
okay.
And that's kind of where I got my start. He was a mentor to me.
That's good.
Have you done the same thing for Liberty Hill by chance?
I've been up there a lot and it's been a while since I've been up there.
There's probably a lot of good stuff up there.
Yeah. It's very similar to this, but I like this place more. I like to include this map as much as I can because it really shows what's left of natural habitat across the Willamette Valley since 1850. And we're just up in that little circle there. Some of the threats to the property include invasive species such as English ivy, Himalayan blackberry, shiny geranium, Scotch broom. Threats by people include off-road motor vehicle use that goes through the wet meadows and active illegal dumping.
I know exactly where that's at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Even
pretty
some of
close
that-
water now.
Some of that dumping has been there for, they've
Yeah.
been dumping it for decades.
Yeah, I saw tire tracks backing up to it this year, which is,
On the other side, just down by the railroad bridge, people go down four-wheel drives and run it. Really, just, it's shocking.
what I would personally love to see this property turn into is a place like Camassia Nature Preserve, which has walkways and bridges for people so that they don't disturb the meadows. It just allows them to enjoy the nature, still respecting it. Just provide a good space for our community to be able to learn about what's here, what came before us.
It is a unique environment for St. Helens.
Don't even feel like you're in the city anymore when you're out there. It's just quiet, just nature.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity to share.
I think you've helped us more than we've helped you.
Yeah.
Just, I want to see this place turn into something great, and St. Helens is going through so much growth right now that I think protecting these areas is great importance, and I'm very thankful that you guys are looking to preserve it as well.
That's the plan.
You have any other friends or anything like that that have also are keen about the site, like
Not too much, really.
too much, okay. So trying to just build support for it anywhere it can.
That's your family? Right on.
You can't convince them.
I have a question, with the unique nature of the geography and therefore the little microclimates that are created, right? It's a very unique location, through my limited knowledge, right? So how common do you think, that those specific environments that we looked at today on your, presentation, how common are they in this region, let alone like nationwide?
Very rare. Like, this is one of the largest extents that is still intact. And there's maybe a couple places anywhere within an hour's drive that somewhat relate to this. I would say places in Oregon City and Westland, like Camassia Nature Preserve, which is the most similar. And that area is just, people love it. So
Have you ever heard of Solve Oregon? Stop Oregon Littering and Vandalism? So it's basically a volunteer gig where you can be a team captain, and you can, a lot of it every year they do the massive beach cleanup where they remove thousands of pounds. I would think that you could possibly become a team captain and get some volunteers to get all those tires out. I'd volunteer. They pay for the removal of the waste, and I know tires are not cheap to get rid of. So just maybe something to think about. Are you still in high school?
no, I graduated in
Okay.
2023.
Right on, right on. I'm gonna say a senior project or something, but yeah. So no, I mean, that'd be something to look into. Just solve like how it sounds and then sign up, and you can sign up on their website and have the whole entire, have anybody else who's on the website sign up for the cleanup crew. So during the dry months prior to that.
I really applaud your passion for this. This is just something else.
Awesome. And we'll definitely probably be using some of this information if that's okay with you.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, I was gonna say, a question on like your perceived importance, and then if you'd be willing to allow us to utilize your presentation parts of it and your statements of importance when we are discussing with city council, and moving forward with our plans.
Oh,
Okay with that.
also, it could be, we might ask you to present.
Join us.
some-
Yeah.
I think joining us would be even better.
Feeling your passion would be very impactful for other people.
Absolutely.
I'd love to advocate for this location. I think it's very important.
Thank you so much. We're openly taking, I don't know, when did the application for commissioners?
It's already
It's
closed.
already closed, okay, but I encourage you to keep an eye out, and apply, when we have opening, which happen periodically, because the passion and enthusiasm that you have for this is exactly what this commission is for.
Fire under us.
Yeah, keep us motivated.
Be proud, Mom.
It's kind of his passion.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's deciding because he's trying to choose a career. Like deciding, 'cause, like, he was gonna go environmental science, and he's like, well, this is my hobby and my passion, and looking more medical, maybe, like he's a.
Where are you looking to go to school?
I'm just doing PCC right now, just taking a couple classes. Same time.
Following those hobbies and passions though, man, that's the way to feel fulfillment.
It's just nursery on Sylvia Island.
Yeah,
I propagate plants and just kind of around it all the time.
love it.
So you're the guy I need to talk to when I order stuff.
No,
Not my job.
That you working there full time?
no, just a couple days a week.
Like the Scappoose Bay Watershed Council has a nursery once a week in the theory. Or in the Scappoose.
I've been there before,
Yeah.
yeah. Up there.
We buy plants there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay. I was kind of bluffing,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, next on the new business is term expirations. Jerry Belcher and Nick.
Can take this one. Since Nick only served part of a term, if he's interested in doing another one, you guys can just vote for council to recommend him. We'll just do these one at a time.
Okay. Did you want to advocate for yourself?
I'm actually thinking that this will be my last term. Definitely, yeah, with my home life, Ivan. I think it'd be best for me to step back. I know it's probably coming as a shock, but with all the hours working, I'm working 14 hours and don't want to put all that responsibility on my wife to raise my son. So regrettably, I do want to not advocate for myself for reappointment and would decline it if offered, so. Sorry, everyone, but
Was that-
Lucas,
there-
Lucas.
was that-
I'm not renewing.
Keep yours over, he's gonna, when his term is up shortly, get your application in.
When is your term up?
December, this December, yeah.
Okay.
There you go. Get on the city's website and get an application for.
I think all of us would recommend.
So Jerry came in and saw me last week, said he was going to be gone, but he is interested in doing another term. But because he's done two, we had to advertise, but nobody applied, so you can vote to recommend to council.
So I'd like.
Here. Not here.
We could get rid of them.
We can tell we got rid of it. That's what.
Well, I would love to make a motion
Second
to keep Jerry on.
The second of the motion, okay. All in favor?
I thank everybody.
Aye. Lynn,
Aye.
Thank you.
I want to say opposed.
Tell me all voted him down.
You're in.
Don't nominate for chair next time.
Yeah.
Tell him only if
10
he's
years,
chair.
12 years.
Yeah.
10 years, 12 years, and he's chair for the 12.
There you go.
Well, Nick, I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for everything.
Sorry, I couldn't do it longer, but I gotta know my limitations,
That's
so.
appropriate, yeah.
I'm not happy.
I know.
You know.
Lucas can get on board and.
But you're smarter than I am.
All right.
Okay, next on the new business is the meeting schedule.
The schedule out there, if everybody's okay with it, you vote to recommend to council.
Yeah.
Very much the first,
Keep it on.
second Monday of the month, as always. Make a motion
No
to,
holidays interfering this year.
Perfect.
make a motion to approve the schedule for the next year.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Any opposed? Yes. Old business. We're gonna switch out number 6. We've switched it out.
Switching it out. Okay. Well, thank you guys so much. I would definitely like to, discuss roles and responsibilities and update the bylaws, next month, but, I'd like to discuss the, public meeting laws training that occurred today. There was 3 of the commission members, in attendance. I know 4.
Reed, Lynn, you and I.
Oh, yeah, 4. And it was a great, great training, I think. And they were very clear, very concise on I think what is very important for us to understand in regards to public meeting laws, because they clarified some things that we've discussed in months prior, and some concerns that I had brought up earlier in the year. And I was really grateful to be able to ask some clarifying questions during this meeting or during the training. And those topics I'd like to bring up with you guys so that you can take some time to learn more, to digest it and to read into that more if you have questions. And so the Oregon Government Ethics Commission, their jurisdiction encompasses ethics laws, lobby regulations, and they recently took on public meeting laws. And so this is kind of a new role for them, and they're diving deep into that. And it sounds like they're going to be more attentive and possibly make more changes in time to come. And there's resources online that they gave us at the www.oregon.gov/OGEC. So if you guys have any questions or if you want to look up some information, I highly recommend you look up that. And I can give you that again later if you want to. But they had an advice page on there, which is incredible because it gives us the options to, if we have questions about any possible public meeting laws violations, especially when it comes to what we're doing, we can go right on there and ask them directly, and they can guide us. And that is not only a great first step, but if we utilize their advice, that can allow not only clarity for us individually, but kind of a level of protection for us as well.
Safe harbor is what you called it.
Safe harbor, and that is so vital for us, because if you guys have not gone through and read the Oregon administrative rules and the Oregon state, like the statutes for meeting laws, as I had kind of clarified earlier in the year, it really leaves us not only individually, but as a group and as a public entity, the city of St. Helens, at risk for potential consequences when violating those laws and rules. Because in regards to accountability and responsibility, all of us here on this commission are responsible and accountable for actions taken by us in regards to meeting, both in action and in non-action.
Just gonna say that.
Yep, and so, and there are fines that can be issued individually. The fines cannot be paid by public money, and we're also open for lawsuits as a commission, as a city, as an individual. And so being mindful of that, I really recommend that each and every one of you go through, and there's information right there on the website, and read all of the Oregon administrative rules and all the statutes that apply to public meeting law, so that we stay within guidelines to keep all of ourselves protected. On that note, as I had mentioned a few months ago, the definition of public bodies, that
Governing body.
it's defining public body and governing body. The public body, you know, we're an advisory commission for city council. We're a governing body
So
individually as a commission, but also any subcommittee that we would create is a governing body in its own right. And therefore, things like quorum applies to them individually. So realistically, having a subcommittee of, say, 3 or 4 people to avoid public meeting laws, that's erroneous. That's not a thing. And so we need to address that. So before our next meeting, where I'm looking at talking about, you know, our bylaws and revisiting our roles and responsibilities and whatnot, I'd love for you guys to read through and digest that information, because I'd like to clarify the way that we do some of the things in regards to any subcommittees that we may have, including, and I clarified this today by a direct question, interviewing and approving new commission members, because that is legally to be done as a public meeting and abides by all public meeting laws, including documenting the votes and the discussion and having that released as public information. So that all has to be done publicly with notice and allow anyone who wants to be present to be present. It cannot be done during an executive session. It cannot be done privately. So it must be done publicly.
So do I even count as a commissioner?
I mean, they had 60 days to report a violation. So we're beyond that, I think, at this point. But the reality is, like, we cannot act in ignorance.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and we have the opportunity to educate ourselves, and it's our responsibility individually. And I highly recommend that you all read through with a fine-tooth comb.
Well, you've read it for us already.
I read it,
And it
I know.
reinforced what you said.
And I know that sometimes I'm difficult to listen to, and I have one of those brains that just like picks absolutely everything apart. And for that, I apologize once again. But always my interest is the best interest for everything that I'm participating with and for everyone that I'm participating with. You know, we are here to serve the public, but we must protect ourselves. We cannot serve properly if we're not protecting ourselves and the people that we're serving. You know, by that. So one other thing that they clarified today, and I think this is really important to know, is that a quorum is not based on available or not, it's not based by full seats, it's based by available seats. So even if we don't have a full commission, our quorum is still what it would be by if we had a full commission. Okay.
5.
So 5 always. Even if we only had 5 members, a quorum would still be 5 members.
So if you have
not
4, then you can't.
If you have
any
4, we
meetings.
couldn't have a meeting, right? We wouldn't
Yeah, wouldn't
legally
able-
be able to make decisions.
Even if there's just 5 people on the board.
Yeah.
The commission, I mean, yeah.
And see if there were any other notes that I thought were really important. Oh, some things that do not apply specifically to public meetings is if there is an information gathering only, and therefore you're not discussing, you're not deliberating, you're not making plans, you're not discussing what things you may potentially make plans on later, purely educational only, that does not count as a meeting. However, it's my personal opinion that having those types of meetings for information gathering does ride that gray line and could be construed as a possible violation. So being very mindful not to do so, right?
And that's what I tried to bring up when I was questioning that.
And it's very clear, in the guide, like when you read their recommendations on there, they recommend not doing those things. They recommend not having those subcommittees because it does ride that gray line, right, of not transparency, and potentially put you open for risk.
That's probably why we always get the emails about possible quorum when city council members are meeting in the same area.
Yeah, and they actually clarified that today too, and they don't really have to do
You
that.
don't have to do
Okay,
it.
just, which is a safe harbor.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it's such a great training. It was really so
I
informative.
wish they could have done it for.
And but you can go online and there's so much information and they're hosting more and more trainings and like there's opportunity for education, which is rad. Meetings that are unrelated to the governing body's deliberation or decision. So say you're out and about and you want to go bowling with your friend just happens to serve on the commission with you, as long as you are clearly not discussing anything at all commission related, it's not a meeting, right? And so we don't have to be afraid of meeting up with other commission members. We just have to be mindful. It's our responsibility not to discuss anything at all parks related. Now, if you're out with your friend and you start talking about Milton Creek, now you're in violation, right? 2 or more could be in violation of public meeting law. And so we cannot discuss it outside of public meetings. Okay. And anything that's non-substantive. So talking about scheduling, saying, oh, I'm not going to be at the meeting, right? Those kinds of things don't count as public meeting. And then on-site inspections don't technically count as the meeting, but again, that's one of those gray areas because you can't discuss anything that could potentially lead towards a deliberation or a decision-making. Or having association gatherings, you know, so if all of us went to a dinner or in my mind, you know, doing the Citizens Day at the park where we're just there showing, you know, support. We're not deliberating, we're not talking about decisions, that kind of stuff. As long as we're not having association gatherings, commissions gatherings, they're not technically meetings, but being mindful not to speak of anything outside.
Like, let's say Scott and I see Scott at the pub. And I go up talking.
I wouldn't be there.
I'm just saying. Just saying,
You get to
pretend
do
you're at the
that.
pub. I see him at the pub. Hey, Scott, how you doing? I go over and chat. We're having a beer together and we can't talk about anything park related. Even though it's just our opinions, we're just us two going back and forth.
Technically,
Yeah, it could be.
if anyone else.
No sense.
If
I know.
any- Right, we're right. And this is where we have to be mindful, right? It's our responsibility. But if a third person overheard your conversation, they could potentially report you and then you would have to
Go through.
go through the process.
That makes no sense at all.
No,
I-
Is it like,
And
let's,
and you can always clarify by going on the website and asking them the things, because again, I am in no way.
No, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that makes no sense.
could we talk about the disc golf park course at McCormick Park? Because it's not about a decision we're currently talking about. We couldn't talk about Milton Creek and things that we want to do.
Right.
Like we'd be like, hey, have you been to McCormick Park's disc golf course? They got a great 18-hole layout. Would that count?
So
Seems like a
what's,
good
I mean,
idea.
what's, again, you would have to ask them. I don't know. What's the intention of your
Go
conversation?
disc golf. But I'm just saying in this
Yeah, okay.
example, like,
Yeah.
as long as it's not anything that we would normally talk about.
Especially if
regards to-
there's an agenda item, you know, if there's a standing agenda item, if there's something coming up, if there's things that we're considering planning, that kind of stuff, we're not supposed to be talking about it.
Well, like though for Nick's the disc golf guy, I want to learn. So I can't go disc golfing. We can't talk about the course.
You can absolutely, I mean, I can't say anything. I can't say anything. If you have questions, go on the website and ask them. They're the resources.
Sounds good.
I just want to say next time we go to the pub, you're buying, I bought this last one.
Uh,
If you're not with a commission member, you can discuss things that are going on, because I mean, we're like in Nob Hill, we're constantly talking to people.
are you information sharing?
Yeah, we're discussing what we're trying to do in there and everything else.
So information sharing, they said, does not count as a public meeting.
Mhm.
Of course, it's information sharing. Yeah.
And again, I can't, like, I don't want to answer.
You don't have to worry
specifics on
about
that. I would,
everything,
yeah, I would ask.
Well, I still have to
I
worry
was
about.
asked.
Yeah, exactly.
This is information only. I cannot give you.
This is not legal
This is
advice.
not legal advice. I do not have official.
We're not crucifying.
No, it's just the, yeah.
It's all your fault.
It is always my fault. No, I don't want to speak out of turn too. And so always read through there and ask them. These are my interpretations of the information given today.
Also my interpretations too. She's hit it spot on for
I'll
my.
call the state and tell
Um,
them.
What's that?
I'll just call the state and give them a piece of my mind.
yeah, by all means. And you can talk to your legislator. Like if you guys have concerns, because there were other people with concerns, you know, call your legislator. And again, I don't think, so the regulating body that have recently taken this over, this is new for them and they're going through things and they're finding the hiccups and they're actively working on the things. And so they recognize that there are there's a lot of room of improvement.
Owners and
I'll just take it to my city council rep.
As if he could do anything.
The least powerful man here.
And anytime that I've had to call them, it's almost always been an instant answer and response. It's a 5-minute phone call. You ask your question, they give you guidance and you're on your.
So you've had to
I
call
think-
them a lot?
I think one time, there's several times, yeah. One time I think they said, we'll have somebody call you back and it wasn't that long of a wait, but they are good and very helpful.
He's got them on speed dial.
Yes.
I'm going to now.
He'd be
Should.
mindful to do so. I mean, it was really, really important. And that's what I wanted to bring up that public voting. And so when it comes to, interviewing and voting on new commission members, that is a public meeting situation. And so we need to discuss that and how we're going to be doing that moving forward so that we are not in violation, because having a 3-person subcommittee doing it privately and outside of public meeting laws is a violation.
And if it's a
That's why this
3-person,
stuff is best off that we did.
Yeah.
our
Absolutely.
interview As a whole.
When-
group.
Absolutely.
So we used to do.
That's just the way we
That was-
did it.
when a subcommittee.
She would have brought that up.
Wouldn't a subcommittee need to have 5 people anyway, since.
No, so
I should have brought it up.
a subcommittee could be a subcommittee, right? So we have a 9-person commission and we could create with our bylaws, a subcommittee of a smaller amount of people. But then if we're creating a subcommittee, that would have its own quorum
Okay.
based on the volume of people that we.
So it's volume-based,
delegate.
okay.
However, all of their meetings fall under public meeting laws as well.
Just-
So they would have to be doing everything.
Putting yourself at risk more.
Unless they're fact finding, in which,
But again, there's a lot of gray area
there's
there.
a gray area, because I mean, it's like I said, if.
Yeah.
When we were this volunteers.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Another thing to keep in mind, so the procedure for appointing new commissioners is the same for all city boards and commissions. So rather than you guys taking a lot of time to dig in that on your own, I would like to forward them our current policy and just have them look at it and see if they have any recommendations.
Great.
Because it's the same policy for the library board, it's the same for all of our commissions.
Because we're on the planning commission and we're interviewing people and we have a subcommittee.
So is that something that you guys
Yeah,
think
I've
is a
already got a note that I will forward them our commission appointing policy and see what they think.
fantastic? Great. And then can you report back to us at our next meeting then so that we can update our practices? Because that would be fantastic. And then see if there was anything else.
I'd like to say something.
Yeah.
Okay, we've been following for the last 2 years resolution, a City of St. Helens resolution number 1648. And actually Brandon has been part of that. So I just wanted to remind everybody.
What is that?
This is the one I was referring.
That's the one he was referring to, Lynn?
Yes,
Right. So he's going to discuss changing that to So that we're in
Comply with the-
compliance with state law.
That's their
Is
recommendation.
that the
So the
recommendation?
compliance with state law would be is that we have to, as a whole group, interview people, not just have a subcommittee that interviews the people, right?
Yeah.
I would wait for them to give guidance on that.
Regardless, it would have to comply with, public meeting laws. In order to not create more violations. So if they wanted to keep it a 3-person subcommittee type of deal, they could, but we would have to comply with public meeting laws regardless. And my bottom line, and I'll leave this, is I encourage each and every single one of you to go on to read all the laws and rules. And it's your individual responsibility to comply with those laws and rules. And so if you're in a situation that you are aware of that is not in compliance, it's your responsibility to state that it's not in compliance, and it's your responsibility to remove yourself from that situation, right? And in doing so, that is your best way to protect yourself, okay?
I guess we can just talk about this after the meeting.
Yeah, we'll talk about this after that, no. And that is all. I just wanted to update you guys and, oh, website. That is. Are you ready? www.oregon.gov/OGEC.
GEC.
OGEC.
So we just send out an email about with that address, I'm terrible. Address.
Well, hopefully it'll be in the minutes.
Yeah.
And you can also just go, I mean, if you go on the Oregon government website, it's on there. That's how I found it in the first place.
I don't remember.
My number? Oh, Howard.
Well, I'd much rather not.
You Google Oregon Government Ethics Commission.
Well, being recorded, so that's. Oh. Yeah, okay.
All right. That is all, unless you guys had any other questions for me on that. Dave?
Yeah, well. All right, we're on to Milton Creek Reserve, our standing item. Everybody get the email and the newest of the new Milton Creek Woodland Reserve project. Any holes in it yet? So I don't know what you guys are thinking. If we're trying to get this presented to the city council by next month, we got a lot to do. And I'd like to have it, if I can, myself, but I am just one of 9 on this, which
I have more time now.
okay, great. I'm gonna utilize that then, if you don't mind.
Only if you ask me
I know.
publicly.
Nick, he has lots of time. He has 10 other hours. He's
Yeah.
also working. So can utilize him since he's leaving anyway. Can
Are you
use-
retired by chance?
Are
Are you retired?
What are you talking
Are
about?
you retired?
What do you mean?
Yeah, like maybe 9 to 5?
I've never had a regular 9 to 5.
Okay. So you've got plenty extra time then.
9 to 5? Yeah.
Work like 7 to 12, it's like AM.
I'm a business owner. I work and stuff.
It can be that way.
13 or more.
So there's, and let me just pull up the email that I sent you guys.
The first thing, if you haven't, Scott, I would check with Kathy and see if the date that you're shooting for,
Yeah,
if there's.
there is that, that was in the email also that. So we're looking to plug holes. I wish Buck was here because he said he could get maps. Trying to get all maps that we can look at so he can send it to all of us. I'm gonna call him to do that. So we can look at it and then on the next meeting, decide that. Photos, send it to all of us. And you guys look at it, decide which ones you want. We'll decide that on next meeting, because all we have is the next meeting before giving a presentation.
Now, May I make a recommendation? as our guest is still present, with the presentation that he provided for us. His presentation included information on the flora and fauna.
Mhm.
His presentation included beautiful photos of the region. So we could check off 2 of our boxes with that presentation alone. If we could possibly invite him to join us for that meeting and or utilize his presentation for that meeting.
I would rather just utilizing him for that meeting,
You-
not
We
Just his-
we have to ask his permission to
ask his,
join us.
well, he did give us permission on that and, but we'd also have to agree as a group to extend that invitation, I think.
Yeah. So I'd like to,
The age of 18, is that? Okay, I just want to make sure we don't need like.
so I would like to make a motion then to invite Lucas Green to join us and present on our behalf to the city council, his present,
But not so,
not, well, no, not solely, but in addition to our presentation to city council when we're discussing Milton Creek.
If he's okay with that. Yeah. I'll second that.
have a vote.
Aye.
I,
Lynn,
Aye.
hey, thank you.
Just making sure you're still out there.
Yeah. Just don't want to leave you out. So you got, I mean, that can hit, some of it, we might, want more photos and other things. So again, I'm gonna call up Buck about the maps. We got other things on, there's also, Lynn had done some work on the flora and fauna. Lynn, if you could send that to all of us so we can review that and then discuss it. I'll try to myself, if you send it all, I'll try to.
I don't have that anymore. I think I would go with your guest and the
Okay.
information that he's got.
All right, thank you.
Steve, I know we're present.
You can send me this and I'll try to get, update this so we can look at it prior to the next meeting. And then maybe we can agree on it and then agree on who's presenting. And hopefully we can press on. I seem to be dominating this once again, so. Looking for your input.
so what's our plan of action right now? Is we're going to,
Well,
Have-
excuse me, I'm sorry. Were you gonna do anything outreach, community?
Dean is the PR for City of St. Helens. So I-
Crystal,
Crystal?
Crystal, let me search my emails because she had a list of questions before she would kind of move forward with like the email, or not the email, like the newspaper and trying to get public support.
Okay,
Mhm.
So let's see if I can find that. Oh, I got a lot of emails from Crystal. Let's see here.
Because would our presentation be better at an actual city council meeting or one of those things where they do a half hour before the city council meeting that it's a special? Something or other?
Well, I'm gonna talk to Kathy.
I think that you're thinking of Howard.
Yeah. Different things, okay.
I'll talk to Kathy and see when and if or what we can do.
Probably the
And
worst
then I'll-
thing would be,
I will give that to you guys all, email it to you all on an informative basis.
now when we do our presentation to city council, will we at that time be requesting that they consider moving forward to create the preserve at that?
Oh, I would like to. I mean, 'cause-
That would be my goal.
Yeah, plus, I mean, we also have the zoning that,
Or that's what I meant, is to change the zoning
we got to change the zoning for that property.
in order to
which
move
is-
on to make it a
Yeah, but
preserve,
then that requires some public meetings for
right?
that.
So then, because having a
But, I
really
mean-
clear vision of what we're doing at that meeting,
Yeah, we don't want to sound like, a bunch of,
correct? So
yeah.
are we looking to present the information that we've gathered thus far? And then in addition to the beautiful presentation by Mr. Green, and then request city council change the zoning of the region?
Well, we,
Because that would be
I
first
guess-
step, right?
first step was say, have them agree that this should be set aside, and then we'd go with the zone. But we have a counselor,
Probably gonna involve the planning commission too, then.
Only we knew someone on the
to,
planning commission
well, I'd have to recuse myself from that.
to be biased, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so then should we also meet with the planning commission prior to our meeting with city council?
I don't think it'd be, we need to at this time, and we've touched base with Jacob, and he gave us what we'd be needing to do.
Okay,
I don't think it would be,
I'm just trying to understand
the.
the quickest way to get the work done, if that makes sense.
My,
So would we give our presentation at a work session or a regular session?
that's something we just still need to talk to
Discuss, 'cause
Kathy.
sometimes if we're asking them to possibly
Make a decision. Mhm.
Don't they look at things that?
In the work session,
And then
decide.
and vote on it later that night if they
I
want.
would recommend the work session. And also invite Jacob to be present so that he could advise on next steps and
Yeah.
get it moving forward the best that we can.
I'm sitting right here. But I think he's there all the time anyway.
He's close, he's available if needed, so yeah, we can request that.
It's fun.
Sounds like you might be on here soon.
Yeah.
So
I call us the cool kids.
he's only talking about that side of the table.
Sometimes some of the stuff we talk about is vision, like we may not see it in our lifetime, but maybe you.
Oh, I'm not that old.
That's all. Well, every day, I'm still like 16 right here.
So if you could forward us that list of questions that Crystal.
I'm up here, Bentley.
Yeah, Nick,
But yeah, so I emailed her. My name is Nicholas Helmick. I'm on the board, Parks Trails Commission. I recently assigned to try to see if if we could get a news article out about our attempt to preserve the Milton Creek Trail area. This process is in the early stages, and we're hoping to see if we could generate interest within the community to determine if our citizens would be interested in a nature trail. Please let me know what steps I would need to take in order to get a news article about our plans. And so then she responded, "Hi, Nicholas, can you send over more details about the project? Is there a process that's already been decided for how you want to capture feedback from the public? How does the commission want to gather public interest, e.g. a survey, public meeting, etc.? It's good to have clear instructions to give the community about how they can provide feedback or express their interest to pair with information about the project. And keeping the meetings law in mind, I didn't respond to that. I wanted to bring that up here rather than discuss with her. So I didn't know if I can email her right now, the list of questions or how we want to go about getting that feedback from the community.
Well, give us the questions, send it,
I'll forward
forward it to us, and then on the next meeting, we'll have to look at it, because we can't do anything online we'll have to think about it ourselves.
Right.
And then come back.
We invite her to the meeting?
Crystal?
Yeah.
Yeah, can we invite Crystal to to our next meeting to discuss public outreach?
You can see if she's available. If you could put her first on there, that would probably be helpful.
Okay.
Okay, that's me.
Get her out.
Get her in and get her out.
Okay, well.
Chair,
well,
invite Crystal to the next meeting and have her as item number 1.
don't tell her as well.
You can blame everything on me. It'll be my last month next month, so it's fine. Messed it all up and
And
got
regarding
out.
public outreach.
We'll get back to the. Brandon. We had slated you to give us some background on prehistoric and historic components.
Yeah, and I'll see what I can dig up, but
Okay,
a lot of it too. It's kind of referring to one of their the areas that Clint was talking about today, that cove area, from what I understand. It's a big native settlement where the creek runs into the bay there, so.
I did mention to the port that in their presentation, they're trenching across it. I said, and their costing, I told them that might need to factor in the cost of the archaeological work that be needed to be done there then. Plus the site itself, it's old enough to be considered a historic site, just for the creosote plant. And the buildings are. Okay, we got photos, we got some better maps, acreage.
So, do they have availability on December 18th to?
That's what we're gonna call Kathy.
Oh, okay, okay. Because at this point. I would need to know sooner or later in order to be available, to help present. Because I do have obligation to my student on that day, but I think if I can let him know sooner than later that I may need to be unavailable,
I will talk to Kathy.
be great.
Again,
I'm planning to be there. I don't know what I'll provide, but I'm planning to be there.
okay, anybody else? I mean, we're gonna have to, we can all be there or,
I'll be in Montana.
okay, do you wanna zoom in?
Go ahead.
And present?
Sure, if you want to do it from the plane.
Present.
Yeah,
your
sure.
From speeding.
And
track. I've called it.
Since you're still on board, I
Yeah.
want you there too.
Yeah, sounds good.
What time is
I'm
the
gonna
work?
squeeze you for everything I can.
2:00.
For Lucas or Mr. Green, sorry, what are your plans for December 18th?
I don't think anything currently.
Okay, do you know how to get to the agendas through the St. Helens
I think I've seen
website?
it before.
So, like, I just Google City of St. Helens agenda and it pops right up, so.
We'll keep you updated there.
I have way more photos too.
Good.
Yeah,
The more you have-
Send 'em.
Yeah.
I mean, I have taken photos, but you know, it's not at the
Cause
right time of year and.
it sounds like last time we got a little bit with the city council that we need to give them a good idea of how long we're talking about our presentation. So
Yeah.
they're really in hurry. So that's something.
Yeah.
to think
We'll
about too.
kind of,
I think once we gather the rest of
Refine
the
it.
information, then we can have an estimate at our next meeting.
Yeah, always overestimate too. Just better to be early than late.
Lynn, do you have anything to put in?
Nope.
Okay.
So quiet today.
Does anybody else have anything else to put in?
We're doing item 7.
Yeah.
Okay, no, yeah.
Okay.
Do you have any homework for me on this project then between now and then?
No. But. We'll utilize you. Soon.
Great.
Soon. Okay, then, gonna call that one to a close. Nobody else has anything else to say. We're on staff report. There's no staff here, so councilors report.
All right, I don't have a lot for you. Just want to thank you that were able to go to that training today. I thought it was beneficial, it was informative, so hope you learned something. I think now is always a good time, the end of the year, beginning of a new year, to start looking at goals, and I know we've got some big things in the works for next year and probably the next few years that we're working on, but good time, I think, to come up with some long-term goals as well as some short-term goals. And keep in mind, we've got lots of parks and lots of public spaces, and I know we've been tending to talk a lot about this one and the urban trail, but we've got lots of other spaces too, so.
Yeah.
You know.
Would it be possible to have maybe John and Jenny Dimshow come soon and give us actual update of the waterfront park. And kind of where they're at now in the construction and kind of what their vision is as far as timeframe on progress for this upcoming year.
Specifically the Riverwalk.
Specifically the waterfront park and Riverwalk.
Yeah, I think all you have to do is make a request. Name the date.
Right now, it's slated to be finished in May.
May is the park, yeah, and I'm not sure how much of what all that includes, but.
Yeah.
There's a little, I mean, part of the Riverwalk in that
Phase
some
one.
of you.
I just feel
one.
like with the amount of changes and
Yeah.
delays and all kinds of stuff with the construction and whatnot through this past year, that it would be healthy to have just an updated meeting on where we're at and what the vision looks like for this upcoming year, so that we can focus our goals in mind.
So I'm getting curious when and if they're ever gonna open the staircase to Mount Hill so we can start.
Right,
It hasn't been used in 3 years now. It's need a lot of work to.
yeah. That's why I think like having an accurate update from them would help us secure our goals for this upcoming year, if that makes sense.
Just name the meeting you'd like and make a request and they'd be happy to come.
Yeah, for next one.
Can we?
Okay.
Put it on next month.
Knows.
Maybe.
You're still always invited to come for meetings. You're not alone.
100%.
You're also welcome to volunteer.
Yeah.
Sorry, Brandon.
I think that's it.
Okay.
All right, discussion items. Nobody? Nobody?
I can do mine real fast. Just an update. We had, 12 people come to the North Village Parkwood Party. Rain held off till we were just about done, so that went well. Planted another 10, 12 plants or so in there, got a bunch of weeding done. Back this weekend and picked up some tires that we've been finding in the woods, so I get those picked up where it was, and that's about it. Fast.
Thank you. Anybody else? Discussion items?
Yes, it's Lynn here. I've been curious as to what is happening or going on in all the other parks, and we had a list of who is going to be presenting about their assigned parks, and I think it's kind of fell off, and hopefully December we can have the person that was signed up for that.
Yeah, I'll look into that, Lynn.
Okay, thank you.
Jared was going to do October and he wasn't at that meeting and then
Yeah.
got canceled, so you both got waylaid.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we got, everything kind of went sideways.
And I'd like to touch on some of that during our roles and responsibilities and bylaws at the next meeting. And so, because I'd like to clarify some of that and have an open discussion about how that's been going and if we like that to continue, and if so, put that in clear writing in our bylaws, et cetera.
I want to mention something about the bylaws. It was included in the packet a couple months ago, and it was from 2019. And the last time we had an amended bylaws was March of 23. So just want to make sure that gets out there.
Have something about McCormick Park, if that's okay. Worked with another fellow disc golfer. We were able to spread out that pile of bark chips just past the second hole. To a lot of the wet areas, not the wetlands, but areas that usually get wet during the winter season. So it'll be a lot safer for people to play the course, walk the course. Currently messaging Buck, he gave permission to get another free drop of like 4 or 5 yards of those wood chips in the same area, but we're holding off until we kind of see some other wet spots, or maybe when another tournament's coming to town. Our wood chips are really necessary for a quality playing experience. So, and as I stated earlier, I'm not going to be requesting to renew my chair here, at the board. So hopefully open it up to even younger generation. So,
Give us one here.
so thank you all for allowing me to do this. It's quite the eye-opening experience and
Still gotta teach me how to disc golf.
still show you how to do it bad, but I'll still show you.
Never done
I love disc golf.
Yeah, it's fun.
I've never done it.
It's so much fun.
I'll give you my number at the end of the meeting.
Again, I'm sorry to see you leave, really am.
No, it was a tough decision, but you know, you gotta focus on that little kid, you know, and making sure my wife still loves me and. Yeah.
I think she does.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's all I have.
Okay. Anybody else? Nothing?
Went out there, stay off the fields.
Okay.
I was gonna take my 4x4 out there.
No. No.
Yeah, there you go. Got some
Do
cookies.
you want to expand on that?
Don't incriminate yourself.
All right, that's us.
Turned.